In 1972, a construction worker in Bulgaria drove his excavator into the ground and accidentally cracked open the oldest processed gold ever found on Earth. 6 kilograms of it, sealed inside graves that hadn't been opened in 6,500 years. That discovery at the Varna Necropolis was just the beginning. Across the ancient world, sealed tombs and undisturbed burial chambers have surrendered metal artifacts that don't fit the timeline. Iron 2,000 years before the Iron Age. Copper alloys with compositions that required furnace temperatures nobody thought these civilizations could reach. The key word is undisturbed. These aren't artifacts found in mixed soil layers where dating gets murky. These came from sealed contexts. Tombs that hadn't been opened since the day they were closed. The metallurgy inside them tells a story that contradicts the textbooks. In this investigation, we're going to walk through 4 of the most significant metallurgical discoveries ever pulled from ancient tombs. By the end, you'll understand why some researchers believe we've been underestimating early human technology by thousands of years. And there's one artifact from a pharaoh's tomb that rewrites what we thought we knew about ancient trade networks. October 1972, Varna, Bulgaria. Rachel Marinov was operating a backhoe at an industrial construction site near the Black Sea coast. His bucket pulled up something that glinted in the mud. He thought it was scrap brass. It wasn't. Archaeologists arrived and began excavating what would become one of the most important prehistoric sites ever discovered. The Varna Necropolis, 294 graves, dating between 4600 and 4200 BC. Inside them, 3,000 gold artifacts, 6 kilograms of gold total. To put that in perspective, that single cemetery contained more processed gold than every other excavated site from the same millennium combined. Every site in Mesopotamia, every site in Egypt, every site on Earth. All of them together didn't match Varna. And these weren't crude lumps of hammered metal. The Varna goldsmiths had mastered techniques that wouldn't become widespread for another 2,000 years. Thin sheet gold, precisely shaped, decorative appliques with uniform thickness, gold-painted pottery, standardized jewelry forms repeated across multiple graves. Grave 43 is the one that changed everything. A single male burial, roughly 45 years old at death. He was interred with more gold than had been found in any grave anywhere in the world from that era. A gold scepter, gold rings on every finger, a gold sheath covering his entire lower body. The conventional explanation is that Varna was a wealthy trading hub that controlled Black Sea copper and gold routes. And that's probably true. But it doesn't fully explain the sophistication of the metalwork. These people were working gold with a precision that implies generations of accumulated knowledge. In a period when mainstream archaeology says metallurgy was barely getting started. But Varna's gold, as extraordinary as it is, isn't the most unsettling metallurgical discovery from an ancient tomb. That distinction belongs to 9 small beads found in Egypt, made from a material that didn't come from this planet. Gerzeh, Egypt, 1911. British archaeologists excavated 2 pre-dynastic tombs dating to approximately 3200 BC. Inside tomb 67, they found a necklace. Strung on it were beads of gold, carnelian, agate, and lapis lazuli, and 7 small tubular beads made of iron. Iron. In 3200 BC, that's 2,000 years before the Iron Age. 2,000 years before anyone was supposed to know how to work iron at all. The beads corroded over the centuries, and for decades, nobody could explain what they were actually made of. Then in 2013, a team led by researchers from University College London and the Open University put the beads through neutron and gamma-ray scanning. The results were definitive. The iron contained 11% nickel and trace amounts of cobalt, phosphorus, and germanium. That composition only occurs in one material on Earth: meteoritic iron. These ancient Egyptians had taken iron from a meteorite, a rock that fell from space, and worked it into jewelry. They hammered the meteoritic iron into thin sheets, then carefully rolled those sheets into tubes. That process requires understanding how to work an iron-nickel alloy that's harder and more brittle than copper. And here's what makes it truly remarkable. The beads were strung alongside gold and lapis lazuli, the most precious materials in pre-dynastic Egypt. Whoever was buried in Tomb 67, their community placed meteoritic iron on the same level as gold. They recognized this material was different, special, from somewhere beyond. The ancient Egyptian word for iron translates roughly to metal from the sky. They knew. 5,000 years ago, they understood that this material came from above, and they had the metalworking skill to shape it into something wearable. If meteoritic iron in pre-dynastic Egypt surprises you, what was found in a cave overlooking the Dead Sea will rewrite everything you think you know about how early humans worked with metal. 1961, the Judean Desert, Israel. Archaeologist Pesach Bar Adon led an expedition into a cave system near Nahal Mishmar, overlooking the Dead Sea. Inside one cave, wrapped in a reed mat and hidden in a natural crevice, his team found a hoard of over 400 objects. Most were copper: mace heads, scepters, crowns, tools, and ritual objects, all dating to approximately 3500 BC, the Chalcolithic period, the Copper Age, a time when metalworking was supposed to be primitive, simple shapes, basic casting. What Bar Adon pulled from that cave was anything but primitive. Among the objects was a copper crown, the oldest crown ever discovered, decorated with vultures and architectural gateway forms, cast as a single continuous piece. No seams, no joints, one pour. The technique used was lost wax casting. The artisan sculpted the object in wax, built a clay mold around it, heated the mold to melt out the wax, then poured molten copper into the void left behind. It's a process still used by jewelers and aerospace engineers today. And someone in the Judean desert mastered it 5,500 years ago. But the metallurgy gets stranger. When researchers analyzed the composition of the elaborate pieces, they found they weren't pure copper. They were copper alloyed with 4 to 12% arsenic, plus antimony and nickel. That's a deliberate recipe. Someone understood that adding arsenic to copper makes it harder, lowers its melting point, and improves how it flows into molds. Here's the contradiction. The simple tools in the Hoard, axes, chisels, were made of pure copper using basic open molds. The ceremonial objects used an entirely different, far more advanced technique and material. Two levels of metallurgical knowledge existing side by side. One basic, one sophisticated enough to challenge the timeline. The question nobody has fully answered is, where did this advanced knowledge come from? Lost wax casting with arsenic copper alloys doesn't appear gradually in the archaeological record of this region. It arrives fully formed, as if the people who made these objects learned the technique somewhere else, or from someone else, And then there's the artifact that connects all of this. A single weapon found inside the most famous tomb in archaeological history. An iron dagger buried with a boy king, made from a material that came from outer space. November 1922, the Valley of the Kings, Egypt. Howard Carter and his team opened the sealed burial chamber of Tutankhamun. Among the thousands of objects packed around the young pharaoh's mummy, Carter found 2 daggers, one gold, one iron. The iron dagger was extraordinary. The blade was still sharp after 3,300 years. It showed almost no corrosion. It was housed in a gold sheath with a crystal pommel and a hilt decorated with granulated gold work. This wasn't a tool, it was a treasure. For nearly a century, the dagger's composition was debated. Iron in 1323 BC was rarer than gold in Egypt. The Bronze Age Egyptians didn't have the furnace technology to smelt iron from ore. That required temperatures above 1,500 degrees Celsius. So where did the iron come from? In 2016, a team of Italian and Egyptian researchers used X-ray fluorescence spectrometry to analyze the blade. The results were unambiguous. The iron contained 11% nickel and 0.6% cobalt, the exact signature of meteoritic iron. The same extraterrestrial fingerprint found in the Gerzeh Beads 1,700 years earlier. But here's where it gets more complicated. Further analysis of the dagger's construction revealed something unexpected. The gold hilt was attached using a calcium-bearing plaster that contained no sulfur. That's not an Egyptian technique. Egyptian metalworkers used sulfur-based adhesives. Researchers now believe the dagger wasn't made in Egypt at all. The leading theory is that it was a diplomatic gift from the Mitanni Empire, a powerful kingdom in what is now northern Syria and Iraq. The Amarna Letters, a collection of diplomatic correspondence found in Egypt, include a letter from the Mitanni king listing iron objects sent as gifts. One of them matches the description of Tutankhamun's dagger. So a meteorite falls to Earth, somewhere in the ancient Near East. The Mitanni find it, or trade for it. They're metalworkers, or specialists whose identity we don't know, forge it into a blade with a homogeneity that suggests they understood how to work meteoritic iron at a level that shouldn't have existed in the Bronze Age. Then it travels hundreds of miles as a royal gift, crosses international borders, and ends up strapped to the thigh of a dead pharaoh, where it sits, untouched, for 3,300 years until Howard Carter lifts the lid. Step back and look at the pattern. Varna, gold metallurgy so advanced it outstrips every contemporary civilization on the planet. Gerzeh, meteoritic iron shaped 2,000 years before the Iron Age. Nahal Mishmar, lost wax arsenic copper, casting that appears with no developmental precursors. Tutankhamun, a meteorite blade forged with techniques that shouldn't exist in the Bronze Age. The Irish discovery shares 3 characteristics. First, they came from sealed, undisturbed contexts. The dating is solid. Second, the metallurgical techniques are more advanced than what the surrounding culture was supposed to possess. Third, they appear without a clear developmental trail. The knowledge seems to arrive fully formed. The mainstream explanation is trade and cultural transmission. Varna sat on trade routes. The Mitanni moved objects across empires. Knowledge spread along networks we haven't fully mapped. And that's a reasonable position. But it requires accepting that metallurgical knowledge was far more widespread far earlier than the textbooks currently show. Some researchers have gone further. They argue that the evidence points to a shared body of metallurgical knowledge that predates the civilizations we associate it with. Not a single source, not ancient aliens, but a distributed network of early specialists whose expertise was older, deeper, and more connected than we've been willing to admit. And there's one more piece of this puzzle that almost nobody talks about. In 2013, the same year the Gerzeh Beads were confirmed as meteoritic iron, researchers in Spain reanalyzed a Bronze Age treasure hoard discovered in the 1960s. Two of the artifacts, an iron bracelet and a decorated iron hemisphere, tested positive for meteoritic iron. They dated to between 1400 and 1200 BC. The meteorite that provided the iron had fallen to Earth approximately 1 million years before the artifacts were made. Someone found it, recognized it as workable metal, and forged it in Bronze Age Spain, on the opposite end of the Mediterranean from Egypt. The same technique, the same source material, separated by thousands of miles and centuries of time. We started with a construction worker in Bulgaria who accidentally dug up the oldest gold on Earth. We've traced a line from the Black Sea to the Nile, to the Dead Sea, to the Valley of the Kings. And at every stop, sealed tombs have given us the same message. These people knew more than we thought they did. The metal doesn't lie. It can't be reinterpreted or debated away. Neutron scanning, X-ray fluorescence, isotopic analysis. The science is settled on what these artifacts are made of and when they were buried. The only question is how. How did people 5,000 years ago possess knowledge that we keep insisting they shouldn't have had? What do you think? Did these ancient metal workers develop their techniques independently? Or is there a missing chapter in human history we haven't found yet? Let me know in the comments. If you want more investigations like this, subscribe. We go deep on cases like this every week.